Hello, and welcome back to Building for Others, the AI podcast where the thing that you've made that you're here to talk about today has to actually be used in the real world by other people besides yourself. And today we have Joe Johnson, who's the VP of Data and Analytics and Software Development at Perry Homes. And Joe, I have all this information about you in our research here, but I'm sure that you are better at explaining who you are and what you do than I will be. So, Joe, please welcome and take it away.
Thanks. As you mentioned, VP of Software Development, Data Analytics at Perry Homes. We are the largest all-female owned home builder in the United States. Build about 4,500 homes a year across Texas and Florida. My particular role, we have a large data estate across all of what we collect in our building process, our purchasing. I can't even imagine. I didn't come from construction before this, so the number of options that go into a new home just boggles the mind. But it shouldn't. I came from CPQ in complex manufacturing, where the same thing. You imagine the fire truck that you buy as a city doesn't come with the pump, and there are like 3,000 options that you can put together for that pump. So it's wild what you learn with this. But we manage the entire data estate as well as all of our custom enterprise apps that we build out for making life easier for our customers and our internal stakeholders.
Yeah,
And can you
I
talk
hear you
a
on
little bit
the.
about the difference between the two? So, who is the internal stakeholder? And then, obviously, I assume the customer here is just home buyers, right?
Home buyers. Yep. Yeah. So we see our customers as a number of stages. So there's obviously home buying. They're the people who are just looking to toe in the water, starting a family, wondering what's going to go into buying a home. And then we have the people who are actively been in our homes for multiple years and maybe are looking for a new home and they want to come back to Perry as well. And then on the internal side, we obviously have teams of varying origins. We've got our field crews, construction and sales, who actually operate out in the communities we build. We have our field management that takes over those communities and runs our sales, runs our construction, runs our project management. And then we have our headquarters as well as our regional offices. So we have professional staff in Dallas and San Antonio and Houston and our HQ and out in Florida now who do the local marketing as well as the purchasing, the F&A, the HR, the IT. We've got people forward deployed in most of our major markets from our team as well to just support the day to day that people need.
And so, I don't know, like, me being naive, maybe you coming into this role too, I'm like, okay, a developer, why do they need data analytics? Why do they need even AI? Like, they're out there building things. Maybe they need robots, but like, why do they need like, kind of generative AI? Can you talk a little bit about some of the problems that exist and why your
Certainly,
role
yeah.
is there, and then like how you think about AI related to Perry Homes?
And there's a number of great examples, but the best one I can think of now is probably the one that affects the home buying experience the most. I've never bought a new home in my life. It's not an experience I've gone through, but when I did buy my first home, the process of getting through closing is very stressful. If something happens, something delays that process. Not only have I lost where I live already because I've moved out date based upon when I'm getting my new place, I have to put my stuff somewhere while I wait for my
Mm,
new place to be ready. So, can you imagine? We tell you your house is going to be done July 15th, and by July 10th, we're like, sorry, it's actually going to be July 25th instead. You need to find 10 days somewhere. You probably have to delay the closing of your original house. You have to delay your movers. You may have to find a hotel room to sleep in. And the opposite problem of that, too. What if you're relying on July 15th and we come back and say, sorry, July 1st will be ready? Now your mortgage payment starts faster. You have that overlap between the two. Maybe they won't even let you close on the mortgage on July 1st because you haven't closed on your prior house's mortgage. So it's almost as bad early or late. It's one of those few industries where people aren't happy when you show up 2 weeks early with the product you're going to deliver. So our best use case we have in really more machine learning than AI is, can we take all of this, 60 years of data that we've been in business and use that to help better predict the stages of construction as they go along? And can
mm.
we add external data? Can we build out weather mapping and supply chain information and data that comes from our vendors to figure out what we can do and what we can't do? Or alternatively, reschedule things based on that.
And that
So we
probably has
know. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say that probably has a lot of downstream effects because you said you're developing 4,500 homes a year. And so,
Yes.
like, incremental efficiency gains among that process can probably be pretty game changing across all those homes you're developing, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're talking saving 3 days of construction on every home we do, that's a lot of people years every year that we save in labor and construction and everything else. This money, we get the down payment contract at the beginning, but everything we build is on credit until the customer closes on the home. So anything we can do to decrease that time in construction is not only a benefit for the homeowner so they can move faster, but also for us because that's when we actually make the money off of building and selling this home.
So do you have a top of mind example of like this step in the process used to take, a full day and we found this other way of solving it and now it's 1 hour? If you don't off the top of your head, that's fine. But I'm curious what that might be.
So one that we have identified that is an area for improvement actually had nothing to do with that machine learning model, but does have to do with AI. So we've built out a process now in Central Texas, here in Houston as well. There's a lot of variability in the terrain. It's not like there's mountains, but there's enough difference that if we want to build a house, we have to have a flat pad. So we hire surveyors to come out and they take a string and go out and measure the positive or negative difference of height across the entire plat as you build the house. And we use those to calculate infill dirt that we have to order. And that process generates a PDF from the surveyor. It comes in. PDFs are really hard for AI to read because it's a literal picture of the plot with numbers all over it. So we've built out a method that we can extract those numbers using document intelligence in Azure and put those directly into the calculator we run to find how much dirt we have to order to infill. And that has saved, not very much human time, but the error rate has dropped dramatically. We've gone from, about a 5 to 6% error rate in the amount of dirt that we order down to like a 0.5% instead.
Mm.
I
And
love that
because,
example because it is
yeah.
like literally down to earth in the sense that
Yes.
it's dirt that you're trying to like optimize
Big
for.
truck of dirt.
Yeah, I mean that's phenomenal.
Miles is going to be so happy, Sachin, that we have one of our colleagues. He speaks in puns at all times, and he's infected Sachin,
Yes.
and it's
I
currently
think my coworkers are very tired of my construction puns. Not having come from construction, I make everything about building houses, and they groan every time.
yeah. So your example here, in a prior life, maybe about like 7 years ago now, I want to say, I was doing natural language processing for like home service technicians or restaurant, mostly dishwashers and like refrigerators or whatever, and they called it first call completion. And basically, the biggest problem was that when the technician showed up and didn't have the right part, they had to make a return trip. And I imagine with the error rates on the dirt that gets shipped out, it's like you show up, you expect to do the job today, but you have too much dirt or too little dirt, and now it just like it knocks every single aspect of the rest of the process off by however long it takes to get more dirt shipped to whatever location you're in. And I think it's just fascinating how like the real problem is solving the error rate and not necessarily like some massive crazy like AI thing. Um, so, anyways, your
Yeah, and
example resonates, and I'm going on tangents here.
no, but I think it fits a theme is that the most successful things are probably the least sexy of all of it. If you think about all the processes I think I could automate, people imagine robots building 3D printed houses. And it's like, no, we just order dirt better than anybody else right now.
That's
Exactly. That's why I
amazing.
love it so much because it's literally about the most simple thing you need to do to build a house, but even that has AI can like help or machine learning can help get to a better place with it. So that's such a cool example.
Yeah, definitely.
Um,
And it came from a lot of document processing automations, things like that, that I've done in the past for my previous role. And I'm trying to start to bring into Perry Homes now that I'm here.
yeah. So one of the things that we talked about in our prep was like why just by Copilot is a trap. and why it doesn't solve for situations like this. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about like how just taking the off the shelf tool that Microsoft's given you is not really, closing the gap on these kinds of problems.
Well, I think something that I noticed, having come from high tech in the SaaS software world, there's a bubble around the industry that everyone is like, no dojo. Of course, you don't measure enablement by utilization rates anymore because that's so 2024, 2025. But
Hmm.
outside of the technical industry, where you're talking manufacturing, you're talking construction, those kind of industries, they haven't made that investment yet. They haven't leapt 2 feet into the pool, not knowing what's at the bottom. So they're still having that discussion around how do we measure value. And we learned really easily at my last job that sure, I hit 96% of users using our Copilot every single week. We were averaging about 30 interactions with AI per week per employee, which is huge. That's amazing. But at the end of the day, who cares? Like 96% of people use the bathrooms at the office every day. Does that mean that makes us a more valuable company because we have bathrooms? And maybe, maybe not having them would make us a less valuable company. But
Yeah.
it's meaningless. We don't value the company based off of something that everybody uses. Maybe 96% of people use the water fountain. Do water fountains make us a more valuable company? No, it's not really an impact. So you can't go down that path in the trap of I'm buying tools because my peers bought the tool and the industry says I should buy the tool and I use it. And it shows in Microsoft's utilization. Like they are succeeding at AI where everyone else is losing money because 100 million people buy Copilot licenses and 3% of people use Copilot. So they're collecting enough money to cover the tokens because this much is actually using it. The rest of us that are far ahead are now seeing this wave of it's now cheaper for me to outsource development back to the Philippines than it is to pay my token budget to go do development using AI. So we've gone full circle back to humans.
And where do you think that gets reconciled then?
I think some of it's going to have to be on the AI company side and them realizing that they can't come in 1000x prices or they're going to lose their whole market. Like if they want to keep the $1 trillion valuation, they have to find where that middle ground comes. Or we as the customers have to start to realize that maybe Sonnet 4.5 is good enough. Like we don't need to use Opus for everything. We sure as hell don't need to use the new model for everything. We can get away with doing it, but that takes a different conversation, a different investment. So something that we're doing, something that I did in my last role, is we're developing a training course that we're calling AI Foundation that literally everyone who touches a computer as part of their job must take this course as part of their employment. And that covers everything from what is AI, what is an LLM, how does it actually work, how does it think, to try to get them to understand. Everyone's always saying it's your intern, it's your intern, it's your intern, but it doesn't actually think like a human. You can't really talk to it like a human. You have to structure and engineer your prompts to fit the way the model works. And if we can start to teach that skill to people, that's the new equivalent of the late 90s and learning how to Google something. Like I trust people who know how to use a search engine. Now I need to trust people who know how to talk to AI and to do it efficiently.
Our like take as, like a company that's building a platform in this space is that uh it really you have the models, right, that have their own kind of like intelligence behind it. And I agree, it's not just like talking to a human, but you do have a harness that sits in between the user and the models. And really, I don't think it is a worthwhile effort necessarily to change the way that humans operate because the platform that sits in between, the harness that sits in between, should be kind of the intelligence layer that can interpret what the end user wants or desires or is doing with the right context around the company and what they're trying to achieve and the individual and the teams and all that sort of good stuff. And the hope is that with something really strong there, it can actually act as the interpreter or the translator back to the model to get like the most potential value out of it. This is very counter to, by the way, what the model companies say, because what they say and what they do is very different. But what they say
Yes.
is that you let the model like do everything. You need a very light harness. You don't need something heavy-handed to extract value out of it. But I just think that's wrong in practice, and I believe that they don't think that's actually correct either, just by looking at what they're building and developing. They're not building a light harness, they're building something pretty heavy themselves.
It's just like a soft drink company is going to tell you you need to drink more Coke.
Right.
Like, of course, yeah. You know how you solve your problem is using more of our product.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Um,
I do agree, and I think from my perspective, from the human side, that in some ways we have to also let the individual follow that journey that a lot of us have gone through, where we start bad, we see the difference, we get the aha moment of where we understand how to talk better to them, and to the point now where I work 75-80% of my day in co-work, and we're just constantly having a conversation about whatever I'm working on at the moment. As we build this AI curriculum, I'm literally just talking to it like another human, as if I have my L&D manager in a box in my computer, answering questions, having discussions, going, you said something, 15 minutes ago that really interested me. Let's look at that. Let's explore that. Give me some options, give me some ideas. And it's not maybe the most efficient way, because it allows my crazy brain to ramble through a lot of stuff and burn tokens. But the quality of what I get by talking to it as if it's another person increases vastly versus the output I get when I'm very prescriptive of do this, do this, do this. And it also shows when I do the critical review, when I tell it, okay, now you be the jerk and rip apart everything I just said to you, question every decision, find all my logical fallacies, and correct them for me. And sometimes I want to cry and run away, but most of the time I'm like, yeah, you know what? You're actually right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Transitioning over, because we want to get to what you have built. I know this isn't for Perry Homes, but I know this was at a prior company. Can you tell us a little bit about the prior company and then go into what you built for the company?
Yeah, I worked for a company called Revalize Software. They build CPQ and PLM for complex manufacturing. So think about stuff that you can't get the pretty Uline catalog and just say, I want that one, I want it in red. It usually has lots of really complex business logic in how you sell and deploy that. And that's a positive and a negative. The positive is it really helps these companies drive their sales process and make it easier to sell to their end customers. But the downside is that means to buy a $50,000 product from Revalize, you often need $200,000 of consulting to properly implement it. Because there's all those little rules. The back to the fire truck example, you don't want to make it so you can plug a 2-inch flange into a 4-inch pipe and it just will blow up and shoot water everywhere out of the truck. You have to have the rules there to prevent those impossible combinations. And it saves on the manufacturing costs because you don't have go back and have revisions. It makes the customer happier because they're not getting something that just falls apart as soon as they get it, and helps the salespeople because they look more competent to their customer in understanding. And as part of that, the longest leg in that tent was the process of taking that data from the customer on all of those possible combinations and putting it in a format that could be easily put into the software. And that alone could be a 6 to 8 month process with customers because
Yeah,
they
why?
don't have they don't have it written down, and that's what's been the biggest issue. A lot of it lives in the heads of their very
Yeah.
experienced salespeople or their engineering team, or that, like, we're working with product marketing, we're working with sales enablement, not the front line typically. Or if we are, I'm a salesperson. I got a quota. I got to sell 500 fire trucks a year. Am I going to sit down and spend 8 hours downloading my brain to these consultants from the software company? Or am I going to go out there and sell fire
No.
trucks? I'm going to go out and
Yeah.
sell fire trucks. So it's really just more about timing and getting all of it out. So as an enablement for that, to make it a better experience for the customers, we actually built a harness around doing interviews, doing quick calls, having the transcript with all of these ideas, taking the product documentation, the PDFs, the marketing websites, the engineering catalog, extracting data from that, finding the rule combinations we can put together, and then building an Excel matrix of option A has these options. But if option A is C, you can't have anything in option 2, and just finding that path towards documenting all of the exceptions and the if then logic tree all the way down to the bottom. And if it's 80% right, 90% right, who cares? We're now 8 months into a 9 month process like that in 15 minutes. So it massively increases the value, not only to the company, but to the customer as well. and it worked. Like, we had people who have 15 years experience selling and implementing the software talking, oh my God, this is our brain breaking moment. Holy shit, this stuff works great. How did we live before this existed? And the reactions were that we'd cured cancer by creating this app, and it showed through. Customers were very excited, very happy to see the results of. Oftentimes, the first meeting we had with the customer, because we'd go pull public data, and we could even get 65% accuracy. We'd preload that into the demo environment, and we could walk them through what it might look like in that first meeting, which is so much more powerful to the customer to understand what they have to give us in the format they have to give it to us in, because now they can actually see it. And yeah, maybe we have something, you can't have a red hardtop on a black car in the Mercedes-Benz catalog. So we have to turn that rule off and make it. But it's a lot easier to fix those edge cases than it is to get the original data out of somebody.
So how would you so I get that there's going to be like a lot of products and options, and those have to be ingested and made available through the software, but like how did the business logic piece of it get interpreted through this, like the fact that something couldn't work with something else or could work with this, or there were 3 options instead of 10 options, but if you had option C or D attached, then none of it would work. Like how did all that stuff get ingested into it?
So a lot of it was from transcripts of meetings. We would
Really?
literally sit, yeah,
Literally
we'd
people just
have,
talking about that.
we would do brain dumps with the most successful salespeople or sales engineers. And one of our implementation consultants who'd been doing this for 10 years knew, ask every question, ask every option, and literally iterate top to bottom. And it
Wow.
sucked because they'd have to write it all down in the past. Teams solved that a little bit with Copilot, so at least we're taking transcripts, but you still got to go back and read the transcripts. What we empowered was, you take that transcript, you take the product PDFs, we scrape their public website, and just dump it all into the context window, give as much context as possible to the system prompt to then produce the rules out of it. And the accuracy just shot way up in everything that we could pull together.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And then
I
talk about going from because this is oftentimes where we see people get hung up, going from like idea experimentation, okay, this like seems like it's working well, to like production, we're going to have everybody using this.
And that was the biggest, I think, lift for us, because I don't ever want to speak ill of my former coworkers, but there were people who didn't have enough imagination. Like,
Okay.
in some of these things, you have to aim for the 10x goal, knowing you're going to miss and hit the 2x goal. But you have to be audacious. You have to have big, hairy, impossible things that you're trying to do. We were trying to get to like 99.9% accurate as part of this process, and we hit 65, and everyone was, mission accomplished banner in the background, popping the champagne. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, we can do so much better for you. Why are you celebrating now? Like, this is great for pre-sales when they go in to do a demo and it's got the actual customer data. It blows the customer's mind that we put that much effort into it, because they're thinking we sat someone down to click all the if then statements in the app instead of just using AI to cheat it. But my thought is, when we're doing this implementation, like, how do we get closer to the zero human implementation process, or to where it's a week of interviews with a human and then the human hands the files over to the AI and we're done. We walk away from it. Once we got past that hurdle, and I'm telling them, like, I want to see a real output of this process. Like, go back a year, find me a customer you implemented, give me their data, and then I'm going to go use all of this material we have from their implementation and see if I can get the AI closer. There was a lot of pushback and a lot of avoidance that they didn't want to do that with us. We don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. There's a lot of check the box. We wanted to check
Mm.
the box that we accomplished this, and then we're done and we can walk away.
So cool. Yeah, I mean, I think that's totally right. But it's like almost like a reverse of what people maybe think, because most people see something they can do with AI and they're like, they are already at the like 10x stage. And then it does what you said, which it delivers 65% of it. And they feel like, okay, that's good enough. That's done. But like, no, you can push it way further than that. So that's like a really good practical example for our listeners here and watchers here. I guess like finishing up because we're getting close on time. What other tips or advice do you have for anybody that is building or working with teams that are building in the space?
Well, the one thing that that project was missing was a valid and accurate measure of success. So we
Mm,
went through this entire process. We were told, it's a 9-month implementation. We want to get that down to 3 months. We want to prove we can do it faster, and we're going to do it with our first customer implementation and show them. And we went through the process, and we did. We implemented that customer from kickoff call to they're actually processing orders was like 3 months and 2 days, close enough for government work. Um, but the real problem was we do 4 implementations a year. So we've now spent 70, $80,000 worth of people's time and effort and implementation work. And we saved what? Like it didn't really feel like a big payoff in the end because we picked something that sure seems bright red flashing emergency. Let's get rid of this. Let's solve this problem. But at the end of the day, the level of effort versus the return was not there. And I think a lot of people struggle to really find and capture what is that ROI, what is the pain point and the number associated with the pain point of your success. What is the happy path in that number? And sometimes it's really hard. I mean, I get it. I've had a lot of them that sound like the greatest idea ever. And when we actually do the math, it's like, is it worth 60 grand worth of developer time to save something that's going to maybe save 5 grand a year?
Yep, that is great. This has been really amazing from hearing about Perry Homes and why AI matters to a home developer, all the way through to how you're helping the team transform and then what you did at your prior company. So, thanks so much, Joe, for joining us here.
Absolutely.
It would be cool to do like a follow up maybe in a few months, see where you guys are at and what you've implemented then.
Yeah. I mean, our next goal is with that construction prediction. Let's see every time the human changes the due date. Let's see every time the AI changes the due date and compare the two and see who was more accurate when in the process and kind of grade the human versus the machine.
yeah, I would love to see that. Thank you for joining us, Jeff.
Absolutely. Love it.